Tell mommy it's okay. Those were the last words my little sister ever spoke. I was still 8 minutes away, pounding the steering wheel in gridlock traffic on I-95, when the nurse held the phone to her ear and let me listen. Rose's voice was thin as tissue paper, breaking apart between each shallow breath. And I lied to her. I told her mommy was on her way. But she was. Mom was sipping her sixth mimosa at a bottomless brunch with her book club, laughing while her daughter was dying in a hospice bed. I should back up. I'm the oldest, 26, the one who grew up fast because someone had to. Rose was the baby, 9 years old when leukemia came like a thief in the night and stole her childhood. Everyone loved Rose, her wide smile, her endless knock-knock jokes, her obsession with Frozen that meant we'd watched it hundreds of times. She was delicate but stubborn, a little butterfly who refused to stop fluttering even when the chemo made her too weak to stand. And me, I was her anchor. I braided her thinning hair when clumps fell out in the shower. I learned how to clean her port and set up her IV. I stayed in the scratchy hospice chair night after night because someone had to. Someone besides me should have been there. Mom should have been there. If you ask Mom, she'll say she couldn't handle hospitals. Too depressing, she always shrugged, tossing her perfectly manicured hands like grief was a boring conversation topic. She was the kind of mother who could host a perfect garden party, every napkin folded just right, but couldn't sit through a single doctor's appointment without excusing herself to get some air. When Dad left years ago, she doubled down on appearances, book club, wine tastings, charity events, anything that made her look good in front of her friends. And when Rose got sick, she made a show of posting sad Facebook statuses and selfies with hospital wristbands, but when the cameras were gone, so was she. That left me. The day everything shattered began like any other. I was at work, drowning in spreadsheets when my phone rang. Unknown number, I almost didn't answer. Your sister is declining fast, the hospice nurse said, her voice gentle but firm. She may only have a few hours left if she's lucky. My clipboard slipped from my hands, paper scattering. I'll be there in 20 minutes, I said, already grabbing the keys. Her breathing is shallow, she's asking for her mother. I froze, she's asking for mom. Yes, she keeps whispering mommy. I was already sprinting to my car. Traffic was a nightmare, brake lights stretching forever. My chest felt like it was being squeezed by a fist. I dialed Mom. She answered on the fourth ring, laughter and clinking glasses in the background. Mom, I said breathless, it's Rose. The hospice says she could be gone any minute, you need to get there now. Oh honey, I'm at brunch with the girls, she said like I'd interrupted a nail appointment. $40 for bottomless mimosas until 1 o'clock, it'd be a shame to waste it. Mom, she's dying today right now, please. I've already had 6, I can't just show up drunk at hospice, I'll eat something then come. Mom, I'll pay you $1,000, just get in the car. She laughed to someone near her, another round for the table, peach bellinis this time. My hands gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. Rose is asking for you, she's asking for her mommy. I'll come after the French host, don't be so dramatic. I hung up and called the hospice back. Please don't let her be alone, hold the phone to her ear. The nurse whispered, of course. And then I heard it, Rose's labored breaths, fragile and broken. Hey butterfly, I choked out, it's me, I'm coming right now, okay, mommy's coming too. Mommy, she whispered, her voice was smaller than I'd ever heard. Yes, sweetheart, she's on her way. The lie burned my throat. Every red light felt like a curse. I called everyone I could think of, my roommate, her old teacher, even my ex. No one answered. No one was available to sit with a dying 9-year-old girl who only wanted her mom. When I called Mom again, she was slurring. Why are you such a buzzkill? She's been dying for months. What's another hour? The hospice texted me, 12:15, is asking for Mommy again. My phone buzzed with another message. Mom texting, just one more drink, then I'll leave. I wanted to scream. Traffic finally inched forward. I was still 35 minutes out when the nurse called again. She's asking if her mommy is mad at her. My heart shattered. No, no, tell her mommy loves her, tell her. The nurse's voice was soft. She wants to say something. Rustling, a faint whisper. Tell mommy it's okay. The line went quiet except for her uneven breathing. When I finally burst through the hospice doors at 1:03 p.m., my keys cutting into my palm, I sprinted up the stairs to room 532. Rose looked so small in that bed, her skin pale, her lips cracked. I grabbed her hand, whispering, I'm here, butterfly, I love you so much, I'm so sorry. Her eyelids fluttered open. She squeezed my hand weakly, lips forming one last word. I love. Her mouth shaped the word you, but no sound came. Her hand went limp, the monitor flatlined. The nurse quietly entered and turned off the machines. At 1:35 p.m., Mom arrived, reeking of champagne, holding 2 Target bags. She pulled out a stuffed unicorn. I stopped to get her something, she said brightly. Where is she? The nurse's voice was gentle but cutting. She passed at 1 o'clock. She asked for you 17 times. Mom's face hardened. She was dying anyway. What difference would it have made? I stood there, still clutching Rose's cold hand, staring at the woman who gave birth to both of us but abandoned one of her children in her final hour. And in that moment, something inside me broke in a way that would never be fixed. When I tell people my mom missed my little sister's final words because of brunch, they usually look at me with disbelief, like maybe I'm exaggerating, twisting the story, being dramatic. But if you'd grown up in my house, you wouldn't be surprised at all. You'd probably ask what took so long for the truth to finally come out. From the outside, my family looked polished. Mom was the type who wore pearls to the grocery store, who never missed a chance to remind people about our family values. She smiled wide in every Christmas card photo, her hands resting delicately on our shoulders like we were props. Inside the house, though, it was all about image. We didn't have conversations, we had performances. We didn't have a mother, we had a director choreographing our every move for her audience. And Rose, poor Rose, she was the baby, the one Mom always called her miracle child, her angel. Except being Mom's angel meant Rose was more stage accessory than daughter. I still remember when Rose was 6 and in her first school play, she had one line, the flowers are blooming. She practiced it for weeks, whispering it to me in her room, pretending her stuffed animals were an audience. The night of the play, Mom was late. She swept into the auditorium just as Rose was walking on stage, her heels clicking too loud, her perfume overwhelming. She didn't even notice Rose looking for her in the crowd. She was too busy waving to the other parents, whispering about how exhausting her day had been. When Rose said her line, her tiny voice trembling with excitement, Mom didn't clap. She was digging through her purse for lip gloss. Afterward, when Rose ran up, grinning and asking, "Did you hear me?" Mom smiled like it was automatic. "Of course, baby," she said without even looking down. I saw Rose's face fall, but she nodded anyway. That was the first time I realized Rose was always going to be background music in Mom's performance. When I was 16, Mom gave me the responsible one speech. She handed me a list of bills taped to the fridge and said, "You know I don't understand finances. You'll keep us afloat when I'm busy." "Busy with what?" I asked. She waved her hand. "Important things, don't ask questions." That was the year I started working weekends, not for spending money, but because I knew if I didn't cover certain gaps, the electricity would get cut off. Meanwhile, Mom always had money for wine club dues, for new shoes, for charity galas where she could pose for photos. She used to say sacrifices have to be made. Funny how the sacrifices were always mine. Rose was different. She didn't notice the cracks the way I did. She believed Mom's words, believed that you're my miracle and you light up my world. She was soft, trusting. She wanted to be loved so badly that she accepted crumbs and called them a feast. I tried to protect her, tried to be both sister and stand-in mom. But kids always want their real parents, no matter how many times you tell them the truth. When Rose got her diagnosis, leukemia, the illusion finally started to crack. We sat in that cold white office, the doctor's words hanging heavy: chemo, prognosis, hospice. I couldn't breathe. Rose held my hand, whispering, "It's okay, I'll be brave." And Mom, she started crying, but not for Rose, for herself. "What will people think?" she gasped. "I can't handle this, I didn't sign up to be." I'll never forget the way the doctor looked at her, sharp, disgusted, before turning back to Rose with real compassion. From that point on, I became the parent. I was the one who sat through every IV drip, every blood transfusion, every night Rose woke up sick from chemo. Mom came sometimes, but only when she could get photos. She'd pose at Rose's bedside, tilt her head just right, whisper, "Smile, baby." Rose would weakly lift her head and smile. The second the camera clicked, Mom's expression changed, her phone sliding back into her designer bag. "All right," she'd sigh, "I can't stay long, this place is suffocating." And then she'd be gone. But it wasn't just neglect. It was sabotage. When I begged her to come sit with Rose so I could shower and nap, she'd roll her eyes. "You're young, you'll bounce back, I can't ruin my whole life over this." When I asked her to stop drinking before appointments, she laughed. "It calms my nerves, doctors should be grateful I'm not hysterical." She always had an excuse, always a way to make herself the victim. There's one memory that keeps replaying in my head. It was late one night in hospice. Rose couldn't sleep, so I curled up next to her on the narrow bed, whispering stories until her breathing evened out. When Mom walked in, she frowned like I'd broken some rule. "You're smothering her," she said, "let her breathe." I looked down at Rose, curled against me like a kitten, her fingers clutching mine. "She asked me to stay," I whispered. Mom sighed dramatically. "She'll never grow strong if you baby her." But I wasn't babying her, I was giving her what Mom never did, presents. As much as I hated Mom for it, part of me still thought maybe when the end came she'd step up. Maybe she'd be there. Maybe she'd hold Rose's hand and say the words every child deserves to hear: "I love you, you're not alone." But I was wrong. She chose brunch. She chose champagne flutes over her daughter's final moments. After Rose died, people told me grief would come in waves, that I'd cry, then feel okay, then cry again. But what I felt wasn't grief. It was rage. Every memory of Mom's failures burned hotter, every excuse she'd made tasted bitter, every moment she wasn't there came back like a fresh cut. And then, a week after the funeral, when I was finally starting to pick up the pieces, Mom showed me just how deep her cruelty ran. 'Cause that was when she looked me dead in the eye and said, "You should have tried harder to get me there. You should have tried harder to get me there." That's what my mother said to me a week after Rose's funeral. Her words hit me harder than the sound of the heart monitor flatlining, harder than holding Rose's small, cooling hand. She said it casually, too, standing in my kitchen with her wine glass, swirling the red liquid like she was making a point about politics. I dropped the mug I was holding, it shattered across the floor. "What did you just say?" My voice was low, dangerous. On didn't even flinch, she took a sip. "You heard me. If you called earlier or insisted or sent a car, she wouldn't have died thinking I didn't care." I couldn't breathe. She didn't think you cared, Mom. She knew. She asked for you 17 times, and you were too drunk to even get in a car. She was 9, Mom snapped, finally looking at me. 9-year-olds don't understand life. She didn't know what she was saying. The rage in me boiled over. She knew enough to whisper her last words about you. She knew enough to forgive you when you didn't deserve it. I wish I could say I kicked her out then. I wish I could say I never let her back in. But family ties are like barbed wire. You know they cut you, but you still find yourself tangled in them. She kept showing up, with groceries I didn't ask for, with wine bottles clinking in her bag, with plans for how Rose, legacy, should be honored. Legacy, she used that word like it was hers to control. She wanted an open casket service at the country club. She wanted to put Rose's old pageant dress on display. She wanted to make speeches. I wanted quiet, I wanted dignity. I wanted to remember Rose the way she really was, messy ponytails, glitter all over her notebooks, humming Frozen songs under her breath. We fought about it every day. Finally, I told her, enough, I'm Rose's next of kin, I make the decisions. That was when her eyes narrowed, sharp as broken glass. "You think you're in charge of this family now, you're not." It wasn't just between me and her anymore, the family split down the middle. My aunt texted me, "Your mom is grieving, don't be so hard on her." My cousin posted on Facebook about how some people were too judgmental of a mother's pain. Everyone had an opinion, but no one had been there at 12:15 when Rose whispered her last words. No one had been there but me. One night, 2 weeks after the funeral, Mom showed up at my door again, this time with a folder. "I've been talking to some people," she said. "We should set up a foundation, the Rose Foundation, for children's cancer. We'll need a board, some PR." "PR?" I interrupted. Her smile was tight. "Well, yes, if we do this right, it could really elevate our family's standing, maybe even some media coverage." I slammed the folder shut. "This isn't about you, it's about Rose." Her voice sharpened. "Everything I do is about Rose." "No, Mom," I said, trembling. "Everything you do is about yourself. Rose begged for you on her deathbed, and you ordered another round of Bellinis." Her face twisted, but instead of fighting, she whispered something that chilled me. "You'll regret making me your enemy." For the first time, I was scared of her. Not just disgusted, not just angry, scared. 'Cause Mom didn't just manipulate people, she rewrote reality. And she was already rewriting mine. I started hearing from her friends little comments like, "We heard you froze her out of the funeral," or "Your mom said you barred her from the hospice." It was like being trapped in a nightmare where the villain has the louder microphone. Thought about the evidence folder I'd started, the screenshots, the voicemails, the canceled receipt. I thought about how crazy it was to feel like I needed proof that my mother abandoned her dying child. But I kept adding to it. Because some part of me knew this wasn't over. One night while going through Rose's old notebooks, I found something that stopped me cold. It was a letter written in her shaky handwriting. "Dear Mommy, I hope you're not sad when I'm gone. Please don't forget the good times. I love you." It wasn't finished. The sentence trailed off halfway, the pencil stroke faint like she didn't have the strength to finish. I pressed the letter to my chest, sobbing silently in the dark. Mom would have twisted this, used it for sympathy points, read it aloud at brunch, made it about her pain. So I tucked it into the urn with Rose's ashes the next day. It belonged to Rose, to us, not to her. The tension with Mom reached a boiling point 3 weeks later. She barged into my apartment waving her phone. "Why did you tell people I wasn't at hospice? You're making me look bad." I stared at her incredulous. "You weren't there." Her face went red. "I was on my way. You arrived 35 minutes late with shopping bags and champagne on your breath. You could tried harder to get me there sooner." That was it, I snapped. "Mom, what do you think is worse, being late to brunch or being late to your daughter's deathbed?" She froze, her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. For a moment, I thought maybe I'd broken through. But then she smirked. "You're so dramatic, no one will believe you." And that's when I realized the question that would haunt me. If no one believes the truth, does it even matter what really happened? Grief makes people quiet. But Mom, grief turned her into the loudest person in every room. 3 weeks after Rose's funeral, I logged onto Facebook and saw it, her post. Black and white photo of Rose from years ago wearing a tutu at a dance recital. The caption read, "My angel taken too soon. I was there holding her hand as she left this world. She knew her mommy loved her. Fly high, baby girl. Mommy will never forget you." The comments were endless. "You're the strongest mother I know. She was lucky to have you. Sending prayers, you were always by her side." My stomach twisted, my hands shook. I wanted to scream at every single person typing those words. Because none of them knew the truth. I started drafting my own post. Typed out the timeline, the hospice call, the traffic, the 17 times Rose asked for her mother. I attached screenshots of Mom canceling the of her texting just one more drink. But when my finger hovered over the post button, I froze. Because once I shared it, there would be no going back. Mom wouldn't just be embarrassed, she'd be furious, and furious Mom was dangerous. Instead, I saved it to drafts. And that night, I started printing every text, every voicemail, every email. I slipped them into plastic sleeves, building a binder labeled evidence. Not for the internet, for survival. The real breaking point came the following Saturday. Mom insisted on hosting a celebration of life gathering at her country club. She called it a chance for Rose's community to honor her. Translation, an excuse to dress up, drink, and perform grief for an audience. I didn't want to go, but family pressure was relentless. Aunts texted me that skipping it would look bad. Neighbors said Mom needed my support. So I put on a black dress, clipped Rose's rainbow drawing to my purse for strength, and walked into a ballroom dripping with chandeliers and white lilies. The smell of alcohol hit me before I saw her. Mom in a cocktail dress, glass in hand, holding court at the center of a circle of women. Rose told me, she was saying loudly, that she wasn't afraid. She said she knew her mommy was right there, that she could feel my love. The crowd murmured in awe. I froze, heat flooded my face. That was my moment. Those words weren't hers, they were mine. I was the one who whispered love into Rose's ear while Mom was still clinking glasses. And now she was stealing it. I don't remember deciding to speak, my legs just moved. "She didn't say that to you," I said, my voice cutting through the chatter. The circle turned, Mom's smile faltered. "She didn't say that to you," I repeated louder, "because you weren't there." Gasps rippled, someone dropped their glass, the shatter echoing. Mom's face flushed crimson. "Excuse me." "You weren't there," I said, shaking. "You were at brunch. She begged for you 17 times, and when she realized you weren't coming, she told me to tell you it was okay." Silence. Every eye in the room was on us. Mom's mask cracked. For a second, her eyes burned with something raw, panicked. Then she recovered. She laughed too loudly, too sharp. "Oh, honey," she said, reaching for my arm. "Grief does strange things. Memories get distorted. You were so emotional, you must have misremembered." I yanked my arm back. "I didn't misremember. I have proof." And then, God help me, I pulled out my phones. I opened the screenshots, the texts, her words in black and white. "Just one more drink, then I'll leave." Gasps again, whispers, people leaning in, squinting at the screen. Mom went pale. For once, she was speechless. But then she snapped. "You think you're helping?" she hissed, her voice rising. "You think tearing me down in front of everyone honors Rose?" Her friends murmured, some nodding sympathetically at her, others backing away uncomfortably. "She loved me," Mom said, her voice breaking in fake sobs. "No matter what you say, she loved me. She was my daughter, mine." Her wine sloshed over the rim as she gestured wildly, red drops staining her silk dress. And then she pointed at me. "You're jealous." The word rang out, absurd and cruel. "You're jealous she loved me more, that's why you're trying to destroy me." Jealous? I almost laughed, except my throat was too tight. Jealous of what? Of a woman who traded her daughter's last words for mimosas. But the room was watching, listening, judging. That's when I realized. Would they believe the messy truth or the polished lie? The rest of the night blurred. People avoided me, whispered in corners. A few hugged me awkwardly, murmuring, "She's grieving," like that excused everything. I left before dessert. I drove home shaking, gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles ached. When I walked into my apartment, I went straight to the binder. I flipped through the plastic sleeves, screenshots, receipts, timestamps. Evidence? Because I knew now this wasn't just grief. It was war. The next morning, I woke up to find my phone buzzing nonstop. Text, voicemails, emails. Half the family furious at me for embarrassing Mom, half demanding to know if what I'd said was true. And one message from an unknown number that made my blood run cold. "Stop before you regret it." The morning after the country club, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. It left 3 voicemails calling me cruel. My cousin wrote a Facebook post about toxic siblings who weaponize grief. Even my boss texted to ask if I was okay because apparently word had already traveled through our small town. Mom was winning the sympathy game. And me, I was shaking so hard I dropped my coffee mug. I sat on the kitchen floor surrounded by shards of porcelain, my binder of evidence open in front of me. Screenshots and receipts weren't enough. I needed something undeniable, something no one could argue with. That's when I remembered the hospice nurse. Called and asked to speak with the social worker who'd been there the day Rose died. She'd been the one to sit with me afterward, quietly walking me through forms while Mom paced the hall, whining into her phone. When she picked up, her voice was steady. I wondered when you'd call. I swallowed hard. I don't know what to do. She's rewriting everything. People believe her. They think I made it all up. There was a pause, then come down to the hospice office tomorrow. Bring whatever you have. We'll talk. The next day, I walked into the same building where Rose had taken her last breaths. The sterile smell of antiseptic hit me like a punch. My chest tightened as I passed room 532. I was waiting in her office with a folder already open. I've been reviewing the notes from that day, she said. We document everything: calls made, visitors logged, patient requests. She slid the folder toward me. I think you'll want to see this. I scanned the notes, my hands trembling. 12:05 p.m., patient asked for mother crying. 12:15 p.m., patient asked for mother again. 12:30 p.m., staff informed patient mother not present, reassured patient family en route. 12:45 p.m., patient whispered, is mommy mad at me? 12:52 p.m., brother present by phone, reassured patient. 12:58 p.m., patient whispered, tell mommy it's okay. 1:03 p.m., brother arrived, patient unresponsive. 1:10 p.m., patient pronounced deceased. Tears blurred the words. It was all there, documented, time-stamped. Prove it. Can I get a copy? I whispered. Nodded. It's your right as her legal guardian. I'll print and notarize it. For the first time since Rose died, I felt something like relief. Until leaned forward, her eyes sharp. You should also know your mother had been calling, asking us to change the records. My stomach dropped. Change them. She wanted us to write that she was present at the time of death. Of course we refused, but you need to be prepared. She's not going to stop. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Mom smile at the country club, the way she twisted lies into applause. I sat at my desk and added the hospice notes to my binder, pages and pages of evidence, but it still didn't feel like enough. Because the truth doesn't matter if no one wants to hear it. The next week called again. There's something else. She explained that Rose's final moments had been recorded, not video but audio. The hospice had security protocols. Certain calls on speakerphone, like mine with Rose, were automatically logged in the system for training and record keeping. My heart pounded. You mean there's a recording of me talking to her? Yes, said gently, and of her last words. I drove to the hospice the next day, my palms sweating against the steering wheel. In his office, she pulled out a small device, pressed play. And there it was. A voice choked with tears. Hey, butterfly, mommy's coming, I'm coming too. Rose's faint whisper, mommy. Me again, yes, sweetheart, she's on her way. Her labored breath. And then so soft it made my chest ache. Tell mommy it's okay. The sound of silence after nearly broke me. I buried my face in my hands. She forgave her even then. Voice was calm. That recording is evidence if you ever need it. I left the hospice clutching the USB drive like it was holy. But that night, as I listened to it again alone in my apartment, another question dug into me. Was it better to let Rose's forgiveness stand or expose Mom's betrayal to everyone? Because if I released the recording, everyone would know the truth. But it would also mean dragging Rose's last moments into the public eye, making them another battlefield in Mom's endless war. The decision was ripped from me before I could make it. The following weekend, Mom showed up at my apartment drunk, pounding on the door until I opened. You're poisoning people against me, she slurred. I know you have those papers, those lies. They're not lies, I said, gripping the doorframe. They're hospice records. She shoved past me, staggering into the living room. Her perfume and alcohol stench filled the air. You think you're smart keeping evidence? You think people care? They love me, they always will. She grabbed the binder off my coffee table. Stop, I leaned forward, ripping it from her hands. Pages spilled across the floor, Rose's drawing, the hospice notes, my screenshots. Mom sneered, pathetic, you're obsessed. You can't move on, so you're trying to ruin me. I gathered the pages, shaking. No, Mom, I'm protecting Rose's truth. Her smile turned cold. Then I'll destroy you to protect mine. Later that night, as I taped the binder back together, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. When I listened, my blood ran cold. It was Mom's voice, but slurred, ugly. If you don't stop this, you'll end up regretting it more than you already regret being there when she died. I saved the voicemail to my evidence folder. But as I sat in the dark, binder beside me, USB drive in my pocket, I realized something terrifying. I had proof I had truth. But if my own mother could threaten me this easily, what else was she capable of? The voicemail played in my head for days. If you don't stop this, you'll end up regretting it more than you already regret being there when she died. Her voice slurred, dripping with venom. I saved it to 3 different drives, emailed it to myself twice, just in case. Because I knew deep down Mom wasn't bluffing anymore. That week, I got a call from my aunt, the one who'd stayed mostly quiet through all of this. Can we meet? She asked softly, somewhere private. We sat at a corner booth in a diner off the highway. The smell of fried onions clung to the air. My aunt sipped her coffee before leaning in. Your mom's telling everyone you've lost it, she whispered. That grief made you unstable, that you're trying to smear her because you resent her. I laughed bitterly. That sounds like her. She hesitated, but I don't believe her. I was there that morning at brunch. My stomach dropped. You were with her. She nodded, shame flooding her eyes. We were all there. She told us Rose wasn't that bad, that she had more time. She ordered another round, said she'd head out after. We didn't know. I slammed my fist against the table, silverware rattling. You knew she was lying, and you still stayed. Her face crumbled. I'm sorry, I didn't think. No, you didn't. But then she slid a folded napkin across the table. On it, she'd scribbled. I'll testify if you need me. I stared at the shaky handwriting, torn between gratitude and fury. You'd really go against her? I asked. She nodded, eyes wet. I can't keep pretending, not after what I saw at the club, not after the lies. For the first time, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe I wasn't as alone as I thought. 2 nights later, I was woken by a knock at my door. When I opened it, stood there, not the calm hospice worker I knew, but tense, carrying a manila envelope. I shouldn't be here, she whispered, but I couldn't let you keep fighting alone. Inside the envelope were certified copies of Rose's hospice records, notarized, official, stamped. They're already in the system, she explained. Your mom can't alter them. If she tries, it'll show. You need to hold on to these. I traced the embossed seal with my fingers, heart pounding. Why are you helping me? I asked. Her eyes softened. Because I watched you sleep in that chair for months. I saw you read Frozen to her when your mother never showed up. I know who Rose's real parent was. Tears blurred my vision. For once, someone else said it out loud. But the truth has a way of drawing fire. The next morning, my phone lit up with texts from Mom. You're dead to me. Don't think I won't fight dirty. You'll regret this. I muted her, shoved my phone in a drawer. That night, my aunt called again. She's telling people you're forging documents, that you hacked the hospice records. I laughed bitterly, classic. But then she whispered something that made my blood run cold. She's talking about getting a lawyer, about proving you're unfit. She says you don't deserve to control Rose's legacy. Legacy? That word again. She didn't want truth, she wanted control. And if she had to destroy me to get it, she would. The breaking point came the following week at a so-called family meeting Mom insisted on. We gathered in my grandmother's living room, me, Mom, 2 aunts, and my cousin. The air smelled of mothballs and old furniture polish. Mom came armed with a folder thick with papers. She stood in front of us like a lawyer delivering closing arguments. I can't stay silent anymore, she began, her voice trembling with practiced grief. My son is trying to tarnish Rose's memory. He's spreading lies, forging records, even turning people against his own mother. Her voice cracked just enough to sound convincing. I have no choice but to protect our family's name. She looked at me with fake sadness. Unless you apologize publicly, admit you were confused, say the trauma made you misremember. My aunts shifted uncomfortably. I stood, my hands shook, but my voice was steady. I don't need to misremember because I have proof. I pulled the hospice notes from my bag, dropped them on the coffee table. The official stamp gleamed under the lamp. This is what really happened, time-stamped, signed, and if you want to drag this through court, I'll bring the audio too. Silence. Her face blanched just for a moment, then she laughed cold, sharp. Audio, you're bluffing. I stared at her, am I? She faltered just for a second, but enough for me to see it fear. My aunt spoke softly, we believe him, Sandra. Another voice joined, I did too. Mom whipped around, betrayed, you'd side against me. My aunt's voice cracked, we saw you at brunch. The room split in half. 2 relatives siding with me, 2 still clinging to Mom's performance. Voices rose, accusations flew. Mom's hands shook as she pointed at me, you're destroying this family. I met her gaze, heart pounding. No, you did that when you chose champagne over your daughter. And then her mask finally cracked. She slammed her hand on the table. Fine, you want the truth? She wasn't my responsibility. She was sick for months and I couldn't handle it. I didn't want to be there when she died. I couldn't, so I stayed away. Are you happy now? The words hung heavy in the air, echoing in the silence that followed. Everyone stared, my aunts, my cousin, me. For the first time, she'd said it out loud. Not neglect, not an accident. A choice. But here's the question that haunted me in that moment. If a mother admits she abandoned her child, what do you do with that truth? When my mother admitted it out loud, that she chose not to be there for Rose, something inside me cracked. I thought I'd feel vindicated, triumphant even. Finally, she said the truth. But instead, I felt empty. Because there's no victory in proving a mother abandoned her child, there's only loss. The silence in Grandma's living room was suffocating. My aunt stared at Mom like she'd never seen her before, my cousin's jaw hung open. And Mom, she slumped into her chair as if the mask she'd worn for decades finally shattered. For a brief moment, she didn't look powerful, she didn't look manipulative. She looked small, pathetic, like the truth had stripped her of every weapon. I gathered my papers into my bag. I'm done, I said quietly, this isn't a war I want anymore. On soft, trying to recover, running away, typical. But I didn't respond, I walked out, leaving her words behind like smoke. The days that followed were quieter. Family group chats splintered, invitations stopped coming. Some relatives sided with her, others stayed silent. A few sent quiet texts of support, but no one wanted to get caught in the crossfire. It hurt, but it was also freeing. Because for the first time, I realized I didn't need to convince anyone else I'd lived it. Rose had lived it, that was enough. A week later, I met with a therapist named. Her office smelled like lavender with shelves full of books about grief. I sat on her couch, binder in my lap, and said, I don't even know where to start. She smiled gently, start with Rose. So I did. I told her about Rose's laugh, about how she hummed Frozen songs when she was scared, about her butterfly drawings and the way she saved half her candy for the nurses, about her whispering, tell Mommy it's okay. I cried until I couldn't breathe. And said softly, Rose's words weren't just forgiveness for your mother, they were permission for you to let go. Letting go didn't mean forgetting. It meant boundaries. I blocked Mom's number. I set filters on my email so her messages went to a folder I didn't have to see. I told my aunts I wouldn't attend any more family meetings where she was present. The world didn't collapse when I stepped back. If anything, it got lighter. Meanwhile, from hospice kept checking in. She gave me contacts for sibling loss support groups, people who actually understood what it was like. The first night I went, I sat in a circle of strangers holding photos of their brothers and sisters. We cried, we laughed about old memories, we admitted how unfair it all felt. And for once, I didn't feel crazy. I didn't feel alone. One afternoon, months later, I finally drove to the butterfly garden. Carried Rose's urn with me, the purple one with delicate wings etched into the side. Inside the enclosure, the air was warm and alive with movement. Bright wings fluttered past my face, soft as whispers. I sat on a bench, urn in my lap, and said out loud, she forgave you, Mom, but I don't have to. Blue morpho butterfly landed on my sleeve, opening and closing its wings in slow, steady rhythm. I smiled through tears, I'll keep her safe now. My life isn't magically better. Grief doesn't vanish, family scars don't fade overnight. But I've learned this. Sometimes the hardest part isn't losing someone, it's surviving the people who should have loved them most and didn't. I've stopped asking myself the endless what ifs. What if I'd left work earlier? What if I dragged Mom from the brunch table? What if I'd screamed louder at the country club? Because the truth is, none of it would have changed who she was. And Rose, she knew love. Not from mom, but from me. From every night I slept in that hospital chair, every story I read, every song I whispered to keep her calm. In the end, that's what matters. Sometimes late at night, I still play the recording. Her faint little voice tell mommy it's okay. I close my eyes and for a moment I pretend she's speaking to me instead, telling me it's okay to move on, to breathe, to live. Because I know if Rose were here, she'd want me to keep going. So that's what I'm trying to do. One breath, one step, one day at a time. And every year on her birthday, I'll go to that butterfly garden, release a balloon into the sky, and whisper back, "It's okay, butterfly, I'll carry you with me." If you've ever been in a family where truth and loyalty collide, you know how heavy those choices can be. So I'll leave you with this question. Would you stay loyal to family who betrayed you, or would you stand with the truth even if it meant standing alone? Let me know in the comments. And if Rose's story touched you even a little, please like, share, and subscribe so her voice, her last words keep echoing beyond me.